That Blake Lively has told people that there were multiple reasons that Justin Baldoni made her feel uncomfortable. It's a feminist buzzword. Uncomfortable on set. Blake beefing with her co-stars is a very common thing. And this is it. It's whiny, it's bratty, and it needs to end. Well, if it isn't the consequences.
The perfect image, America's sweetheart, the picture, perfect wife, and the devoted mother. But ever since the Blake Lively drama started a few months ago, Candace Owens has been digging through nooks and crannies to figure out the truth.
Seen a case so open and shut in my life, and the more that I read and the more details that I get into, because I've been working on my timeline, I'm just shocked at how many lies.
And now that she has the receipts to back up her findings, Blake is shaking in her boots. The curtain has been pulled back. And what Candace just exposed could change everything. Stick around, because we're breaking it all down. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. Blake Lively has always been the Hollywood darling, graceful, charming, and seemingly untouchable. But Candace Owens just cracked open a story that could change everything while the public was still piecing together the rumors. Candace uncovered something far more calculated before the drama even made it to the New York Times. Blake was already making moves behind the scenes.
May have cracked the mystery, or at least we established a very crucial part of the puzzle, which I am told by Taylor Swift's team, or I guess not by her team, but like Taylor Swift's team tried to bury what I'm about to show you.
Unlike what the official story they tried to sell, she wasn't just reacting to being disrespected at all. She was strategizing from the very beginning. And her target was none other than Justin Baldoni. Candace meticulously put together the timeline. And now that the full picture is out, there's no running from it, seems.
There is proof that the New York Times began working on the article even earlier, potentially back in October of 2024. So
Blake thought she was in control. But this time the receipts tell a different story. And now she's panicking. Blake's team is working overtime, trying to flip the narrative. They don't want people talking about her power moves, the shady backdoor deals, or how she maneuvered her way into Justin Baldoni's project. They want people to feel sorry for her.
Blake Lively's PR team wants us to know that everything that's happening right now is hurting Blake's feelings. And I don't know if you guys have paused to consider that Blake's feelings might be getting hurt in all of this. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my...
If this isn't full-fledged Nepo diva treatment, I don't know what is. Blake has lived the Hollywood dream her entire life, cushioned by privilege, protected by PR, and shielded from real consequences. But now that safety net is gone, no one's gushing over her romance with Ryan Reynolds. No one's romanticizing her curated love story, which, let's be real, is its own Pandora's box. Instead, people are finally seeing her for what she's been all along, without the glossy Nepo buffer.
Is causing her and Ryan Reynolds severe anguish. They are anguished by the things that they did being found out by the public in that.
And for the record, this isn't behavior you pull if you weren't served life on a silver platter. Blake is used to getting her way. And when things don't go according to plan Q, the whining well-old habits die hard. Candace may be speculating, but let's be honest, it's less of a wild guess and more of an educated one. The way this whole thing was orchestrated, it wasn't just some random coincidence. It was so carefully crafted that if they had succeeded, Justin Baldoni's name, career, and reputation would have been completely wiped out.
I really think that it was just a perfect act of evil that was almost executed in broad daylight, almost like a psycho.
And let's not act like this would have been the first time Blake and Ryan pulled something like this. The pattern is right there. They've danced to this tune before playing the perfect couple in public, while doing some of the most ruthless, lethal moves behind the scenes. This isn't just about one misstep. It's about a track record that's been hiding in plain sight, shielded by their happy family persona. They publicly bullied people before, but no one said a word. Why? Because their PR machine is that powerful. But now the cracks are showing, and Candace Owens just put a spotlight on all of it. This is what Ryan said about Justin on the Deadpool Wolverine after-party at the after-party.
After-party, Wayfair was informed that Reynolds approached a senior executive at WME and expressed his deep disdain for Baldoni, going as far as to suggest that the agency is working with a predator.
This has again written all over it. And I know many would feel the same anyway. While Ryan and Blake were busy pulling their usual tricks behind the scenes, Candace exposed that this time they got a little too bold, too desperate.
Now let's talk about Justin Baldoni's PR specialist, Jed Wallace. His firm, Street Relations Inc., is suing Blake Lively for defamation after she claimed Wallace and his company.
There's no way around it. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are running out of options. That countdown has begun. And at this point, the only thing left to do is watch them eat the humble pie they've been serving to everyone else for years.
That this is now the 5th lawsuit associated with Blake versus Baldoni, and we're exhausted by it. Now, based on Justin's recent release of documents, an expert I spoke to says Blake will.
This entire saga started when video surfaced of Blake Lively being less than kind to multiple people, interviewers, colleagues, and even fans. And instead of taking accountability, she did what all Hollywood elites do when backed into a corner. She flipped the script and manufactured a new narrative. Blake needed a distraction, and unfortunately for Justin Baldoni, he became the perfect target. She accused him of orchestrating an elaborate PR campaign against her, throwing out wild allegations to shift the focus away from her own behavior.
Original filing, which was with the Californian Civil Rights Department, that complaint was supposed to be the only filing. It was the ultimate bad PR response to what they wrongly assumed.
But this wasn't just another Hollywood feud. This was something far more damaging. People might have forgiven her mean girl moments. They might have moved on from those exposed clips. But this fabricating accusations in a way that undermines actual victims, this is something no one is willing to overlook. They dragged Justin's name into this mess, not because he had anything to do with it, but because they needed someone to take the fall. And the worst part is this time they did it in plain sight. That civil complaint was so exaggerated, so stretched out. But they thought no one would notice. But people did notice.
To be able to file that, take it to the New York Times, get them to take down Justin Baldoni, and who knows, like, it would have maybe been like, okay, we're going to resolve this in the background now.
And now they're not just losing the PR battle, they're being sued for it. And now the situation has escalated even further amid Blake's legal battle with Baldwin crisis management expert Jed Wallace has officially sued her for defamation. Wallace, the owner of PR firm Street Relations, filed a lawsuit in Texas federal court on February 4th, demanding $7 million in damages. Why? Because Blake dragged his name into her lawsuit against Baldoni, accusing him of fabricating social media content to make her look bad. But Wallace isn't playing the Hollywood game. He's fighting back, demanding a court order to clear his name and prove he had nothing to do with the chaos Blake is trying to pin on him, just to give.
Also retained subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to LA to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this
So now Blake isn't up against just Baldoni. She's up against real legal consequences. And from the looks of it, she has no way out. But wait, when fans started calling Blake out on her non-serious approach, aka the civil complaint, she was forced to escalate things and file a full-blown lawsuit. And yet when she did, Jed Wallace's name was nowhere to be found. It was as if she magically erased him from the narrative overnight, hoping no one would notice. But the damage was already done. Her correction came too late. Wallace's entire reputation had already been dragged through the mud. And now he's making sure.
The lawsuit that she filed in New York 11 days later, and now all of a sudden you don't see Jed, okay? It was a pretty strong allegation you made about Jed in the CRD complaint. What happened in 11?
Wallace's current lawsuit stated, as Lively later admitted, she knew of no facts to support the allegations against Wallace or Street. Neither Wallace nor Street had anything to do with the alleged retaliation, failure to investigate, or aiding and abetting the alleged harassment or alleged retaliation. Neither could they have breached a contract with Lively, because no such contract exists. Meanwhile, Blake's lawyer Michael Gottel wasted no time firing back at Wallace's lawsuit. In a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, he downplayed the entire situation, basically brushing off Wallace's claims as baseless. Another day, another state, another 9-fig lawsuit, seeking to sue Miss Lively into oblivion for speaking out. Gottlieb, in a statement, This is not just a publicity stunt. It is a transparent retaliation in response to allegations contained within an retaliation complaint that Miss Lively filed with the California Civil Rights Department. While this lawsuit will be dismissed, we are pleased that Mr. Wall has finally emerged from the shadows and that he too will be held accountable in federal court. But let's be real, if there was no truth to Wallace's case, why was Blake so quick to erase his name from her own lawsuit? It's giving damage control, and it's not the good kind. So now it all makes sense. At first, people thought Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool scene was just another random joke, right? But thanks to Candace Owens pulling out the receipt.
She never said that.
No, but I bet she thought it.
You are so mean. My brain could taste your fingers and they tasted like hate. And where in God's name is the intimacy cord?
This wasn't some off-the-cuff improv. This was calculated. Blake and Ryan have been working overtime behind the scenes to turn Justin into a joke, and they thought they could do it right under everyone's noses. But let's talk about timing for a second. Why now, just a few days ago, they were trying to gaslight everyone into thinking Justin Baldoni was the mastermind of a PR campaign against Blake, and suddenly Ryan's out here sneaking in jabs at him on a multi-million-dollar film. That's not a coincidence. It's giving desperation. It's giving damage control. It's giving, we tried to ruin him quietly. But now that people are noticing, let's just mock him publicly instead.
There is one of the cut scenes that they said, okay, this one's not going to make it into the movie, but here it is.
I'd be fighting alongside them, but my calling is to one day host a podcast that monetizes the women's movement.
And here's the thing, Blake Lively couldn't even say Justin's name once in her interviews. Not a single acknowledgement. It's like she was doing the Hollywood version of, if we don't talk about him, maybe he'll disappear, while Justin is out there giving Blake her due credit. And more, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to Colleen for trusting me for writing such a beautiful book. I'm grateful to her mother for allowing it to happen, because really this was in honor of her mom. And I'm grateful too to Blake for just being a powerhouse of a performer. And that right, there is next level bullying. They didn't just push him out of the way, they tried to erase him.
Mocked in the credits of his own movie, that he was mocked mercilessly, endlessly in Deadpool and Wolverine by A-list actors getting involved there. We know that Justin's colleagues and fellow actors on the film were then all invited to the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine. So
That's exactly why this whole thing is backfiring on them. Blake thought she could distract from her own mess by dragging Justin into a legal battle. But now the internet is picking apart every single move she and Ryan make, and they are running out of places to hide after everything that went down. Justin Baldwin still had the grace to say this about working with Blake Lively creative force. She's a genius. She was involved in every aspect of this production, and everything she touched, she made better. So let's get this straight. Ryan and Blake played this whole game, pushing Justin Baldwin to the brink, threatening to stage a boycott unless he hid away in the basement like some Hollywood outcast.
Ryan Reynolds moved to release his promo for It Ends With Us, which featured his mother, Hugh Jackman, Brandon Sklenar, all mocking him in a...
And now that their scheme has been exposed, they're suddenly begging for people to be respectful of their anguish. Please, it's straight up Dulu. And to be honest, their real anguish isn't about public scrutiny. No, it's about the fact that the dragon they've been using as a shield, aka Taylor Swift, has decided to forsake them yet. According to Candace, Taylor isn't here to save face for Blake anymore. Instead, she's in full damage control mode, working to turn her own public perception around. And what better way to do that than by throwing Blake under the bus?
Apartment at the time that Blake told her to, not knowing anyone else would be there. In other words, Taylor had no idea there was a meeting going on with...
Think about it when you've already been painted as the villain. The easiest way to flip the narrative is to make sure there's an even bigger villain to take the fall. And who better than Blake Lively? Oh, but here's where it gets really interesting. Remember that whole Game of Thrones reference Blake made? Yeah. She literally texts Justin after their meeting, calling herself Kishi, and referring to Taylor and Ryan as her protective dragons.
Taylor believes Blake timed her meeting with Justin so Taylor would arrive before he left, and is baffled by Blake later characterizing her as her...
But Taylor Swift is now realizing that Blake has been abusing their friendship for years. According to reports, Blake has been name-dropping Taylor left and right. even telling a young actress that Taylor personally cast her in a film, spoiler alert, that never happened, and that young actress Isabel Ferraria, and she did speak out about how she got the role.
Now, it's hurting Blake's feelings. And I don't know if you guys have paused to consider that Blake's feelings might be getting hurt in all of this. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my...
And after all that, TMZ sources are now hinting that Blake and Taylor have supposedly hugged it out. Yeah, okay, sounds more like a PR cleanup than a real friendship reconciliation. Taylor hasn't really decided whether to drop Blake completely or keep pretending everything's fine. And in Hollywood, you always prep for the future. Leave it to Candace to catch these celebrities in yet another lie. While Taylor is scrambling to separate herself from this mess, Candace's sources say she wasn't just a bystander. She was knee in it before it even hit the media. And the proof is Taylor's song was literally featured in Justin's movie before this entire disaster unfolded.
Her song was featured, and that at one point to feature her song, she got somebody fired. That is the allegation that is made, and she's curiously not responding to that she didn't like Brian.
During a meeting at Blake's New York City penthouse, Ryan Reynolds and a mystery mega celebrity friend, which let's be real is obviously Taylor Swift, praised Blake's version of a key scene in the script. So before this whole scandal erupted, Taylor was right there involved in discussions.
Do also know that she's not being truthful about what happened later as the meeting was ending. Him and Taylor Swift are agreeing here. A famous and famously close friend of Reynolds and Lively walked into the room and similarly began praising Lively's.
So why is Blake the one panicking? If Taylor is the one shifting blame, well, who do you think put Blake in me star status in the first place? If Taylor's name got bad press, Blake would be dropped so fast she wouldn't even have time to blink. And that's exactly why even after Taylor pinned everything on Blake, Blake didn't dare make a single sound. But now let's talk about why Taylor is lying, because this isn't just about reputation.
I didn't need that to happen. I thought that you were fine already. And if Taylor had said absolutely nothing to him, then she would have responded and said, what are you talking about? She was just coming into the house.
See, Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, has already hinted that nothing is off the table if Taylor was deep in this mess. The legal fallout could be way bigger than she ever anticipated. And now the same person who was acting as Blake's protector might just be her biggest liability.